For years, I've been using this screwdriver for adjusting my handplane's chip breaker screw, and every time I show it in my videos, you lot flood the comments asking where to get one. The problem? It's always out of stock, and honestly, I think we can do better anyway.
Yeah.
So in this video, I'm developing a screwdriver not just to solve that problem, but to elevate it, with better materials, better design, and use some revolutionary, and some risky, techniques to do so. Now, if you happen to follow my friend Daisy Tempest, one of these screwdrivers has been under your nose for an entire year by this point, which has taught me three things. Firstly, it's holding up pretty well. Secondly, I've procrastinated an entire year instead of making more of them. And thirdly, the way I made it was, well, quite slow going. So I'm going to have to completely reinvent the manufacturing process of these things, starting with figuring out what shape we actually want the handles to be. So Roberto.
Yes.
Blind test on 5 different shapes. All of them are very different.
Okay.
I think you're going to like 4.
Ta-da! That's funky, isn't it?
It's, yeah. All of these, by the way, for context, printed in 1 hour and a half. All
of them?
At the same time.
Okay.
Oh!
Oh! That feels much better.
Bit more bulbous.
That's really nice.
Yeah, bit more grip on it. So that's the original one. Similar shape, obviously, but the thing I don't like about this one is it's a big grip, so you can get a lot of torque on it, but also I feel like it's so big that it's actually hard to...
Yeah, as you twist it, you're actually moving the point that you're going around.
Yeah. Because
it is so big.
And the nice thing about this as well, we can get out of 2-inch stock, whereas this will require 3.
Right. Numero 3.
Oh yeah, this was, my brain. We can just throw that away. We're not going to use it yet. This, I think, is going to be the most ergonomic for you, I reckon, personally. Smaller hands and stuff, I think you might like it.
You always scare me when you say, you might like this. It just feels like you're setting me up.
No, never. Number 4.
Oh.
Yeah, quite familiar.
It's big.
A bit too
Yeah. I'm that. Good. This isn't getting in the main video. This really isn't.
It might do.
This can't. Okay. It's a normal one.
It is a normal one.
Ooh.
So personally, I liked that one as well, but I wanted to do a slightly taller version of it. I don't know. It looks quite bulbous.
It's a bit basic. That one. You immediately tighten your grip in the right place for it. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
That one, the grip.
Yeah.
So much more force behind it.
Cool.
Love it.
Nice. So, you love it that much. So we continued developing this handle into all sorts of different sizes and profiles on our new 3D printer, which really helped us dial in the exact shape we wanted without the variance of doing it by hand. And as you'll see throughout this video, this machine became more invaluable than we ever thought it would. So with the final shape developed, I started by chopping up some of the legs from my parents' old dining table that we replaced as a surprise for them a few months ago, then drilled a hole in them for the screwdriver tang and mounted it on the CNC lathe to see what it would do. It's been, I've overwrote my P-sharp.
No, your P-sharp 1 is now 1111.
So this is a cross-section of the plane screwdriver as it currently stands, and obviously the next job is to sand this outside surface. Now with the mallets, the way I did this was by using a screw chuck, which would thread into this tang area and give me full access to the outside of the handle. The difference in this case is that some of these handles are incredibly hard and there's no way I'm going to be able to put a thread in them. So instead of using a thread, what I'm going to be using is I think they're called a jam chuck, I don't quite know, but it's basically just something that will get gripped in the collet chuck of my lathe and then with friction fit into the tang hole and give me full access to sanding the outside. Now this will work incredibly well, but the issue we have here is if I try and sand this area that joins the ferrule, there's a chance I might end up taking it a little bit too far and end up with a step between these two, which I don't want to be the case. I want that join to be absolutely seamless. But by gluing in the ferrule like that, we now have no way of mounting it to the lathe to sand the whole thing. And so we're going to need to break this down into 2 stages. And the way I've figured out is to do this. We'll start off by using this jam chuck and sand the entire thing with exception to this ferrule transition. Then what we'll do is glue the ferrule into it, and I'll just slot this into it to show you a bit of a cross section of the ferrule, which means the only area left remaining is now to sand this transition. But the question is, how do we mount that on the lathe? Well, by 3D printing a custom drive center, we can make something that matches that screwdriver head perfectly and allows it to revolve and sand this transition. But even with a nice snug fit in there, there's no way this drive center is going to be able to grip that enough to sand this without it just flying off. And so what do you do in this case? Well, you 3D print another accessory for the lathe that fits within a live center that cradles this pre-sanded area of the handle from behind while I work on this remaining area. Right, so while I get these things designed and printed, I'm going to task Rob with pre-turning the handles ready for sanding, which means raiding my wood store for material that I've had put aside for years, waiting to be used for this exact tool. These are all the blanks. You've just asked me if you can start machining them.
Yeah.
I've done you the courtesy of ordering them from least dangerous to what I deem to be the most dangerous.
Oh. So this is the danger scale.
Yes. These ones, you see there's just little, this is snakewood.
Yes, yeah.
On a side note, this is why snakewood costs so much, because it's hard to find, and when you do find it, it's very splitty. An entire log was gone through to find these 6 blanks.
That was that log?
The whole log, yeah.
Oh.
Like we use bits of it for knife blanks and stuff.
Yeah.
That's why it's expensive. Hard to find, when you do find it, it's very splitty, and even if you get one that doesn't look splitty, when you cut it, it usually is splitty. So you got some pink ivory there. I've thrown in some desert ironwood for you.
Fantastic, brilliant.
Stabilised massa.
Okay.
Yeah. So while Rob's working his way up the danger scale, let me tell you about this 3D printer, because honestly, it's absolutely blowing our minds at how indispensable it's already proving to be, and we've barely even scratched the surface of what it's capable of. This is the Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon, which appeared on my radar a few months back after seeing many people set up 3D printing farms and businesses using this exact machine. And it appears they're selecting this machine for very good reason. Firstly, the unboxing of it was incredibly quick and easy, and the user interface attached to the machine is just completely foolproof. It went through a calibration process all by itself and got the bed automatically leveled and parallel with the nozzle, which is a process that would have taken so much trial and error with my old machine. And within an hour or so, we already had a benchy printing at rapid speed, and this isn't even the quick setting. On our machine, we've also added this thing which is called an AMS, which is a way of storing up to 4 filaments in a temperature-controlled environment, which automatically feeds them into the machine depending on the one you want to use. In fact, it can even alternate between multiple filaments while printing the same model. Speaking of filaments, the range from the Bamboo Labs website is, for lack of a better word, overwhelming. But after doing a bit of research, we quickly realised how helpful it was to have specific filaments for specific jobs, instead of being limited to PLA only. For example, all of these 3D printed parts are made from polycarbonate, which is an incredibly durable material, is impact resistant, and is compatible with the AMS on top of the machine. The only downside to polycarbonate is that it's susceptible to warping, but seeing as these adapters are so small, the warping proved to be no issue at all. I also found a little bit of PVA on the bed really helped with adhesion, which is easily washed off with warm water afterwards, thanks to the removable bed. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about this machine is, from a video production standpoint, having a time-lapse camera in there is amazing because we can use it as footage in these videos. But from a monitoring standpoint, you can also watch a live stream from this internal camera on your computer or phone to both check the progress of your prints and to detect for any failures. Although, that said, the machine also has fault detection anyway, so you haven't usually got to worry about that. So I usually find myself sat at the computer with a live stream on one window while I work on the next jig or something else in the other window. Then when the print is finished, I remove it from the bed and start a new one, either by using the machine interface or by doing so from the comfort of my own computer. In fact, the Bambu Labs software has all sorts of presets that you can select from and will automatically detect which Bambu Labs spool is in the AMS and automatically adjust the temperatures according to the material you're using, which again is a process that took so much time and trial and error on my old machine. So while this is the flagship model from Bambu Labs, given the usefulness of it in this situation and what's more, the money we would have needed to spend to get these custom components designed and manufactured from a third party, it's an incredibly cost-effective and highly customizable solution for us, and undoubtedly for many other makers too. If you're interested in this machine, we've got a link in the description below to the X1C that we're using, although you'll also find links to many other machines that can be sized according to your own needs.
What happened?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is pure positivity, to be fair.
Oh, yeah?
The next one might be, nightmare, but who knows?
Yeah.
I can't believe the finish.
On what? Ebony?
Would you like to see?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy. In fact, no matter what we threw at the lathe, they just kept getting better.
Are you ready?
I think so. I love this wood. What? What is going on?
It's
like so it's crisp
already.
So now with the sanding jigs and the cleanup process planned, I could begin blasting through the handles that Rob had pre-turned for me. The friction jig held the handle perfectly on the lathe, giving me access to part off the pedestal base left over from the CNC lathe, and then sand the rest of the handle smooth up to 600 grit. I then 3D printed these cool little things, which are gluing blocks to match the screwdriver head perfectly and ensure the join between the ferrule and the handle is completely seamless. Then once the epoxy dried, it was remounted to the lathe to sand the ferrule transition using the custom drive center and the rear support, which I filled with a little bit of leather to protect the end of the handle. A few coats of finish were then applied, and while it's drying, we got to work making custom packaging inserts and sleeves, which make these things ready to ship. Speaking of which, these are now available to pre-order from our website, mattesley.com/shop, links of which can be found in the description below. Thank you very much for watching.